programming around these sort of things, so to have sort of a hybrid approach, or some folks, farm this out entirely. There's lots of different models out there, but they're all predicated on good, strong technology, because you really can't do it otherwise.
So important. Thank you. Thank you. This is great. Tyler, thank you 100% for sharing. And we so appreciate your talk this morning. I think most of us will be percolating on all of that data and information as the day goes through. Sometimes we go to these events and you come back and you have to process. So I'm going to give you in the chat one word that you would use to describe Tyler's presentation. Just drop it in here and I'll read it out.
While everybody's doing that, thanks for the invitation, Joyce. I know you and I have known one another for a little while now. Always a pleasure to see your happy face and to contribute to the success of your event here.
Thank you. So fantastic, excellent. Those are some of the words. I think you're speaking to people here, evidence-driven, and those are some of the powerful. Those are some of the comments we enjoyed your presentation. Thank you, Tyler.
You're very welcome. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the conference, everyone. Bye-bye.
You well. Bye-bye. All right, everyone. We are up, and guess who is on the screen? We've got our Patience is our breast specialist for the summit for 2020, and she was with us yesterday. She's with us today, and she'll be with us tomorrow. So enjoy. This is amazing. Go for it, Patience. You are up.
Good morning, everyone. So great to see you. Judith, thank you for the smile and the thumbs up. Hey, guys, I have just 15 minutes to be with you, so please turn on your cameras. I like to see your smiley faces. Turn on your cameras. Thank you. Oh, you guys are amazing. Oh, Mary, how are you? Hey, Sharon. I'm excited to see your beautiful faces. Hey, Victoria. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Come on, Caddy. Come on, Loretta. Come on, Lisa. Daniel. Hello. Layla, I saw you yesterday. Show me your beautiful face. Ladies, gentlemen, a smile is a gift. When you smile, you lift up your zygomaticus muscles and it tweaks the brain and tells them, please release all those happy hormones. Why don't we? Let's all smile right now. Look at that. It is releasing. You feel salivation. Do you feel that your mouth is salivating as you are? Give me a nod if you smile and yes. It is just the opposite of anxiety. When anxiety, the signs and symptoms of anxiety and stress is dry mouth. So the first and fast way to conquer it is with a smile. And I tell people, sometimes you are so mad if you are a parent or you are in the office and people are getting on your nerves and you don't want to smile. Just put a pen in between your teeth, okay? I'm trying to find one right now. Someone put a pen between your teeth for me. Yes, go Judith. Yes, go Victoria. This deserves a screenshot. Yes, so that is one trick. Thank you all for indulging. Hey, Kathy. Thank you for joining. So yesterday, I want to say thank you to all those who joined us, right? It was powerful. It was amazing. The panelists was over the top. Thank you, Joyce, for putting this together. Yesterday, we did the breathing technique to release sadness, grief, sorrow, and depression out of our lungs, because I mentioned that our brain is a folder, right? Just like the folder, and inside folders are files. So the file will trickle down. This is my assistant, his name. He's called Tom, okay? And Tom, all right. Hi, welcome. So what I said was that we have folders in our brain because we store information. We receive stimuli from the eye, the ear, every part, okay? Touching and smelling. It goes into the folder, and then in the folder, hi Layla, it goes into our files, meaning any of our organs. The lung is connected to the large intestine. So what we did yesterday, we used it to release, okay? We released, deleted, tonified, and then leveled up ourselves. Today, I want us to use the breathing technique that helps us to focus on the kidney. Can you guys see my kidneys right here? Okay, we all have it, okay? every worker behind that desk. So my session is, who is behind that desk? What information, what emotion is stored in this kidney? Fear. Has anyone ever been afraid since you were born? Show by hands, give me a reaction right there. Yes, you see that? Okay, so if you have ever been afraid, it is an emotion. If you've ever had a phobia, right? If you have trauma, any form of trauma before, it was in the folder and it was saved right here in this file. We have to release it, because imagine when your driver is full, or your storage is full, what happens? It releases and overflows and then becomes toxin in the body. We need to release that, all right? So that is what we're going to use this breathwork session to do. So without much ado, let's go into our position, right? Do not lean back in your chair. I invite you to sit at the edge of your chair, relax your shoulders, close those beautiful physical eyes. Lift up a smile on your face, my dear friend, my dear worker, VP, CEO, leader in the workplace. Now focus on your internal eyes, okay? Your future, focus on that part. Who are you without that fear? Who do you see yourself to be without that phobia, without that trauma, okay? I want you to focus on your divine self right now. And I want you to rub your hands together. Fear likes cold, okay? Fear is something that comes with cold. So rub your hands together, feel the heat between your hands. And I want you to touch your kidneys right now. They're right behind, right below, yeah, right there. Okay, thank you for doing that. Now inhale through your nose. And exhale with the sound like you're trying to blow a candle out, okay? Inhale, let's do it together. Inhale. Exhale. Blow that candle. And when you do that, I want you to exhale so far that your navel is touching your spine. That way we are connecting to the kidneys, okay? So the sound has been scientifically proven to vibrate the kidney and the adrenal gland to release fear, trauma, and phobia. So let's do it again. Rub our hands together. Inhale. Touch them, touch them. You know what it is. You know what it is. Release it. Inhale. Exhale with the sound. All right. One more time. Good job, Mary. Good job, Susan, Sharon, Victoria. Now put it on the kidney again. 2020 has brought a lot of fear. The adrenal gland has been overworking. Keep inhaling and exhaling with the sound, guys, at your own pace. 2020 has brought a lot of fear. The adrenal gland has been overworked, everyone's adrenal gland. Even if you are unconscious about it, it is still doing it. Releasing cortisol into our bloodstream, giving us higher heart rates, hypertension, lots of things, insomnia, people not sleeping, headaches, and you are still behind the desk being productive. It's time to do it. Inhale, exhale. All right, now I want you to turn this way, put your hand this way, okay? So we're going to turn from the hip level, all right? No, you are not touching your hands, Mary. You're just making a ball, all right? Okay, so turn to your right with me if you can. Hello, let's go. Inhale, exhale, and turn the hand. Inhale, exhale with the sound. We want to touch each kidney. Inhale, exhale. Inhale. Are you doing it? Good. Inhale. Exhale every fear, every trauma. There is so much healing power in your breathing. Right now, you're calming down your anatomic system, nervous system. You are stabilizing your blood pressure. Your heart rate is coming back to normal. And all this while you're stretching your spine, your lumbar. Good job, Mary. Good job. So now I want you to relax your shoulders, okay? Put your hands like this on your knees, feet apart, on your knees. Put them on your knees and rock from side to side. At this moment, what you're doing is you are releasing the fear. You are releasing that trauma. You are releasing that phobia. You are releasing it from the crown of your head through your shoulders. Feel it drop off your shoulder, okay? Release that shoulder. Release it and keep rocking. We're rocking because the pelvic floor is where we store things that we do not want to deal with. Yes, keep rocking, Layla. And then release it through your knees, through your hands, all the way to the ground. The earth is so huge. The earth is ready to receive it. The earth is ready to refresh and to multiply it and give you back good energy, taking away the fear and multiplying love, joy, peace, gentleness, and kindness to you. All right? Good job. Now I want you to lift up your hands in front of you, and I want you to, in a circular motion, circulate love, the joy and the peace that you have just received. Beautiful blue light. Yes, with a smile, guys. Smile is the connection. Connecting your brain because you're telling your brain everything is all right. And with this motion, you are just circulating. Circulate joy, circulate love, peace, righteousness. Inhale. Blow that candle. Inhale. Blow that candle. Now bring your hand back down onto your knees. Bring it back to your knees. Rock side to side. Rock side to side. This is amazing. It is doing an internal work. It is working on your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual connection. Yes, Layla. Yes, Layla. Keep going, girl. So I have this, you should grab your swag bag because I have a journal that will help you to focus on everything that we're talking about and even more, okay? So do well to grab your swag bag. It's called Who's Behind the Desk, okay? So grab it right now. All right, good job right now. How was that? How was that, Judith? One power word in the comment. Give me a power word. How was this? I feel relaxed right now. Energizing, said Mary. Oh, thank you. Awesome, relaxing, refreshing. I feel relaxed, yes. Relaxing, thank you, Judy. Thank you. Awesome, awesome. Be sure to grab the swag bag. Okay, so I think the moderator is not here, so I'm gonna do one more thing. So what you can do is to help you to exhale with this part properly, you would stretch your hands and touch your knees, okay? So that you can actually feel the kidney, the part of the kidneys that we want to extend, right? So you would do that. So you can blow the candle, okay? Your arms will be straight. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, so everybody grab your knees if you can, and then exhale. Yeah, good. Sharon said, I got it. All right, so that's the one I want to, because I couldn't show you my knees, so I wanted you to remember that. So you inhale, fill up the belly and stretch. Feel everything, curve your back. Let it all out. See yourself blowing out your fear and your trauma and your frustration and phobia all the way to the ground, okay? Because you don't need it inside you. It's toxic energy. It doesn't do anything for us than to make us sick, all right? All right, I see our moderator is back. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you, Patience. Wow, what powerful energy. We are all just ready to go. Victoria, are you on?
Yes, I am. Hi, thank you, Joyce. So I'm really thrilled for our next session. So thank you, Patience. That was amazing. That would definitely help me feel a little bit more relaxed and refreshed as well with the breathing. So my name is Victoria Granger. If you're just joining us today, and I am with Wellness Works Canada. So we're Canada's nonprofit workplace health and performance association. And so I am excited to be welcoming Marie next. So she has a session on the workplace of the future. So it's an ideation session, which is going to be very exciting and very interactive. So Marie Ryan, she has an MBA and a master's in health promotion, I believe, and she's the CEO and founder of Advancing Wellness and is an expert in worksite well-being. So she leverages over 30 years of business experience in various different industries, in a variety of different industries. And for the past decade, Ms. Ryan is a workplace well-being strategist, a speaker, and award-winning author as well. For the past 15 years, she has been creating healthy businesses and impacting the lives of employees through her consulting work and speaking on worksite well-being. So yeah, we're really excited to have her today. So I am going to pass it along to her to talk about the workplace of the future and to have an ideation session with everyone. So welcome, Marie.
Got to be off,
There you
have
are.
my speaker on. It always helps, doesn't it? So thanks everyone for being here. Victoria, thanks so much for that introduction. I'm Marie Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Advancing Wellness. And I need to have the, Amina, if you could allow me to share my screen so I can share my slides, that would be great. So we're feeling all energized and ready to go. Thanks to Patience. That was really a fun way to just get us going and keep us feeling great this morning. So I am going to be spending some time with you this morning. We're going to be doing an ideation session. Now, some of you might be going, I wonder what that is. Have I ever done that? Oh, maybe this is a new experience for me. Well, the interesting piece about this is you've probably done something like this, but it's, what we used to call it was brainstorming and idea sharing. Well, we're going to be doing that today. And indeed, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be working through this session to be able to understand from your perspective, the workplace of the future. We know that, so you heard my introduction, so I'm delighted to be here today. As you know, with what's going on in 2020, we've had a huge amount of change in our world this year. The world that we lived in last year is far, far different than the world we live in today. So there are many driving forces of change that we're needing to deal with. And as such, we've felt, or at least, we have been experiencing huge amounts of disruption. So disruption, as you can you all know because you've been experiencing this, leads to anxiety and stress. And that is, of course, something that is going to have a huge impact on everyone. And it's going to impact us physically as well as emotionally and the way we show up at work and do our work. We have to be thinking about where are we going? What does the future look like? We need to be stopping with what we've been doing, which is looking where we're putting our feet. Everybody says, oh, you must be so focused on helping all of your clients this year. And I said, I'm helping my clients with them to see where to put their next foot, because we're really so narrowly focused on where we are today. And we have not been able to step back and really look forward. So today we're going to have that relief of where we are. We're going to put that all aside and we are going to look forward. We are going to look ahead. I love this quote from Jack Welch. So Jack said, a leader's job is to look into the future and see the organization not as it is, but as it should be. And I think it could also be as it could be. So many of you know Jack Welch was for many decades the chairman, CEO, and then chairman of GE, General Electric, huge multinational corporation. So looking ahead is the role that we are going to be playing as leaders. Don't you wish that you had a crystal ball? This is not quite the leader CEO kind of picture, but it's one I love because it makes us think about what's possible, what's out there, what are the things that we would like to see. One of the things I often do is envision, to have a vision of what I want my future to be. What do we want our future to be? How many of you have vision boards that you keep to be able to really be able to look at, putting those things out there to the universe that you want in your future? And that's exactly what we are going to do today. So let me tell you a little bit about the way we're going to do this, how this is all going to work, and then we're going to get into some of the content aspects of this. So first, what we are doing. This is about ideation. So as I've mentioned, you've used this before with brainstorming, idea sharing kinds of things. As wellness professionals and workplace well-being professionals, it's important for us to be able to collect data, both qualitative and quantitative data. And this is actually a data collection technique. So what we will be doing is we will use ideation as a way to help you with a number of things. It will give us the opportunity to ask the right questions and be able to start to innovate with a real key focus on what your users need, what they are interested in, and what is motivating for them. We all know as workplace well-being professionals that people need to be intrinsically motivated in order to change their behavior. We learned that from the very beginning of our careers in this field. But how do we do that with our programming? How do we go beyond the things that you've always done, the obvious solutions, and be able to create some innovative solutions that you can bring to your workforce or to your clients? In many cases, we do the same thing year in and year out, and we may just change the name of the challenge and have the same old challenge. But how do we start to really think about what do people need? What do they want, which is more important sometimes than what they need, because that's what's going to get them to show up. So we want to be able to bring together the perspectives of different people. We want to be able to uncover areas of innovation that we might never have thought of. It's like bringing all of the best ideas together in one room. And this gives us the opportunity to create some volume for these ideas, some variety, and be able to really think differently and understand what your audience might really want. So it's a way to come out with some new solutions and move beyond some of the things we've been doing traditionally. So how are we going to do this? We are going to do this in a really fun and hopefully innovative way for you. So I'm going to first start by setting some context. We have 4 different topics that we're going to explore in our time together today. And in exploring those topics, I'll bring out a few ideas. And we also have available, let me see if I can find the chat here. So in the chat, I'd like to have Amina, if you wouldn't mind putting the handout link in the chat for us so that everyone can have access to the handouts. So I have some handouts prepared for you that you can then look at for, some thought-provoking ideas. Then I'm going to ask you to submit your ideas. We're going to use an interactive technique. We will post both in the chat and on the screen. You'll see where we're going to be able to access a site. You can use your phone to do this. And I'm going to ask you to enter your ideas on the workplace of the future for the topics that we're discussing. So again, we have 4 topics. And then from each of those topics, we're going to pull the top 3 ideas that you come up with. And then at the end, I'm going to ask you to vote on those. So if we can get the handout link there into the chat, that would be helpful. And then from there, we can go through and we can start the session in terms of here. Let me go ahead and put it there so that you can grab those handouts. You can just click on that and we'll go from there. All right, so well-being, that's our topic, what the workplace is all about from the well-being perspective. So we know this to be true, and I hope you do agree with me because I know this to be true, is that you can't achieve your business goals without an engaged and productive workforce. So it's just plain and simple. Without those people being really on the ball and productive and engaged and tied to the purpose of your organization, you can never achieve your business objectives. And I believe, and I hope you agree, that employee well-being is at the core of creating an engaged and productive workforce. And I've built my career on this in the last 15 years of being able to work with and touched literally hundreds of thousands of employees to be able to improve their ability to be engaged at work and to be productive. And I know you're doing the same thing with your workforce and with your clients as well. Here are the 4 topics that we are going to explore today. They are technology, the built environment, culture, and employee experience. So let's dig in on some of these, and we'll take the first topic, which is technology. Now, as we just heard from our prior speaker, technology is an important part of what we do with well-being in the workplace. And we really can't do a good job of leading our programs and delivering our programs without technology. We also know that we've been through some seismic changes this year, even in terms of the way technology is impacting our lives. Earlier this year, the CEO of Microsoft said that they'd seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months. And that's going from the remote, incorporating the elements of the remote workforces, the learning that people had to go through, the way that sales and customer service elements may have changed, how the cloud computing has become such a critical part of the infrastructure in so many businesses today, and more interest in changes around security. Even right here on this platform, security has become more of an issue. So this adoption of new technology and the way of working is something that I'm sure you may have experienced in my conversations throughout the year with managers of well-being programs and executives, seeing that in some cases people were, suddenly sent home with their computers and saying, don't come back. Or in one case, an organization where they didn't send anybody home because they did not have in place the technology to be able to do that. So is your business prepared with the elements of technology that you need? We see that there are many changes in terms of where technology is taking us. These developments are not new. We've been hearing about them for years. Artificial intelligence, as an example, will artificial intelligence be helping us with decision-making or informing us of things that we may be able to take action on? Think of it potentially as nudging behavior changes. Wouldn't that be a great way to be able to make sure that it is all, that we can be in encouraging lasting behavior? When we look at the Internet of Things, well, just think about this from your own life. How many internet connected devices do you have personally? Do you have a lot? Go ahead, put some in the chat. How many internet connected devices do you have? Or you have children, how many internet connected devices do they have? Right? In the Internet of Things is one of the elements that where connected devices are going to be much more prevalent in our lives. So will all employees at some point in time have some sort of an interconnected device that potentially is helping us understand their health behaviors and the way in which their self-care is a part of their life? So I see some of these numbers. You got 4, you got 5, you got 3. Yeah, we've got a lot of these. And I'm curious how many of them are health related. you know, for me, if I take my Fitbit off, you know, I'm like lost. Like, how am I going to be able to keep track of all those important things that I care about every day in my life? So we think about the Internet of Things as being a very important element. If we think about big data, now, you know, you might think, well, big data, that's not part of my job. How would that fit in? Well, if you think about all of the aspects of what big data really is, big data is really nothing more than a set of data that helps us be able to reveal patterns, trends, understand human behavior. So even in your program, when you're using technology, you have data that you're collecting, and it's an important element of how we measure the impact that your programs are having. So we want to be thinking about the ways in which you can be using that data to be able to improve your program, to follow the things that are of interest and concern to your audience, your population. And the last piece from the robotics perspective, you know, if we think about robotics, you know, maybe you already have a robot in your life. And I've heard about robotic dogs for older individuals to give them some interactive element. You know, imagine a robot that looks like a dog that can, you know, wag its tail and talk to you, you know, be there for you and be able to improve your well-being every day. I'm actually really love to have a dog like that. It would be a really fun experience. But we want to think about how robotics will be impacting our lives, and will they in some way be something that will be advocates in our lives to support our well-being? Will they replace people in the workplace, or will they enhance people's jobs? So we need to be thinking about some of these different elements. So what we're going to do next is, I just want to mention this piece from a technology perspective, especially from a well-being and human resource perspective. Technology moves quickly. You know, there's innovations all the time with technology. But yet individuals are adapting that technology at a rate that is fairly quick. So there's those early adopters. You know, are you one of those people who's always out there getting that newest thing and, you know, trying the new technology as soon as it's available? But keep in mind that businesses do not adopt that technology as quickly as individuals do. So sometimes the individuals are pushing organizations to be able to adopt the technology. And in many cases, and as we've seen even this year, you know, the public policy that goes with technology may be lagging as well. So take, for example, telehealth. Telehealth has been around for years. And then suddenly this year, that technology was adopted in a way that was relevant because of the pandemic. So sometimes we have, you know, environmental things that are forcing the adoption of technology. But generally, we need to keep the curves in mind for this. Now, let's see what you think are the topics that we need to be addressing here in the workplace of the future from a technology perspective. So if you can go to menti.com, and I just want to check and see if Amina is there to be able to put these items. Thank you. Okay. If you would put menti.com in the chat box there, so people can just click on that and you can use it right there in your browser. And then what we're going to do is, so hopefully you can, let me make sure you're seeing this window. I mean, if you can confirm that you're seeing the window and the code number there. So you go to menti.com and you can do this, you know, maybe right on your phone. And then you want to put in this code number that is shown at the top of the screen. So that code number is 7486006. And when you get there, you'll see this same question that you see on my screen right now. The question is, thank you, Amina, for taking care of that. How can technology support employee well-being in the workplace? So what are your thoughts on this? Maybe use one or two words. You know, you can enter the words right there. Collecting data, being able to provide feedback. Maybe it's something like, spelling does count on this, I want you to know. So maybe it's access. Maybe it's the, you know, the connection to each other. Maybe it's connection to each other that we're doing. And certainly we are, getting data. So what are some of the things that you think are the technologies that will support employee well-being, health and well-being? And you may be using some of these technologies today. So connection, educating, certainly educating is an essential part. And many of us use this for tracking. What are the kinds of things you're using? What do you think they might be? Isolation, that's a great one. Yeah, addressing isolation. So we've got there, yep. So connection looks like it's kind of one of the key elements here. And I think maybe our element of what we've been experiencing this year has been causing us to really think about connection in some different ways. All right, so let's give that another minute or two, and then go ahead and make your entries. And we're going to pick the top 3. Now, what I love about the word cloud is the words are bigger based on the number of times that you've entered that. So we see connection, education, and educating. So both of those are the same. We see access as a third one. Yes, we notice that spelling does count on this, right? I know, we learned that easily. So it looks like, why don't we wrap this one up? So let's say we've got, certainly connection is one of the key ones here. Let's take education. And Amina, if you could type these in the chat box and then also capture them in our poll. We're going to do a final poll at the end, and we're going to vote from these 4 workspaces that we're going to be in. So connection, education, and access. So great, thank you. So those are the top ones that we are seeing for technology. Now let's move on to the built environment. Well, when you think about the built environment, what comes to mind for you? Do you wish you worked in a place that looked like this? Isn't this such a neat place with all these plants and curvy areas and areas to interact and connect? When we think about the built environment, I believe we will also be rethinking what the built environment looks like from the perspective of what's happened this year. Suddenly, the open office space is, no longer the kind of thing that we are necessarily going to be willing to accept. So the physical space, whenever I work with a client, one of the things I do is I always ask for a tour of all of their facilities, because I want to see what the physical space looks like. What is it like? What feelings does it evoke? Does it feel, old and dreary, or does it feel open and have lots of natural light and give me energy? So what does that physical workspace look like? Do you have any amenities in that workspace that are the things that are going to give people the opportunity to de-stress, and the ways in which we can step away from our work to not just to be able to have time away from our screens, which is an important element, but will we also have the opportunity, for example, to get out of doors? Will we have access to natural light? Will we be looking for the workplace of the future to foster collaboration, connection, and community? We feel probably in many ways like we've been disconnected as a result of many of the people working from home. And this is going to be an element around when people return to the workplace, it will probably not be the same number of people that were there before. It's probably going to be much smaller. Some of my clients are saying that as few as 25% of their workforce will have permanent desk space in their offices of the future. So how is that going to impact our ability to collaborate, connect, and feel connected? Is this going to be something that we're going to need to address? what will these types of spaces that will be able to give us that ability to be able to have stress reducing spaces? Will they be able to give us a place where we could meditate, where we could do yoga, where we could pray, whatever it is that is, your way of de-stressing? How will we, be addressing those? And will we have access to the energizing type elements such as healthy food, access to water? These are the elements that bring us into the energy aspects of our work. So how will we be able to create these spaces in the workplace? Now, we get that safety is going to be an important aspect in this pandemic world, because that's going to be the first place that people are going to be concerned. So beyond the physical element of safety, what would be the elements that you would like to see from a physical perspective in the workplace of the future? So let's go try this again, and let's look at this question. So there was your first question. Now let's look at the next question let me see if I can, here we go. The built environment. So what from the built environment will you be considering? What would you like to see? What would be the most important aspect for you in the built environment? So you should have that right on your, the next question should have come up for you. You can go to the next question right in the app, in the application in Menti. So let's go ahead and enter some of your responses. What would you like to see? I've got a few ideas I might suggest. All right, can everybody, are you going to the next one? I don't see any suggestions yet. We need some ideas here. All right, there's a few ideas. Ooh, lots of ideas. All right, what do we got here coming up? Ooh, we got a lot of things. Outdoor access, light, healthy, yeah, access to light, air quality is going to be important. Option for remote and remote work flexibility. Okay, so those are two elements. So if you see a word that strikes you, we want to see, we've got a lot of different ideas here. Let's see if there's anything that starts to emerge as the, natural light seems like that's an important one. How about those healthy foods? Yep, the air quality, quiet spaces. Yeah, I think people are still going to want those quiet spaces, the place to just be able to be alone. So there's an interesting idea, empathy from the built environment. That's interesting. Creativity, good. Quiet spaces, okay. All right, well, we've got some great ideas there. I love your comments in the chat. Judith saying, what a surprise that open office spaces finally admitted to not encourage greater productivity. Well, yeah, I think we're definitely in the open office spaces were an interesting experiment, that we can look at that. All right, so let's look at our top three from this section. All right, so what do we see that we've got here so far? It looks to me like, I'd say the top three here are creativity, natural light, and quiet spaces. So creativity, natural light, and quiet spaces. All right, so thank you for those, the built environment. So, Amina, if you can capture those, thank you for putting those into the chat. And if you can also capture those in the poll that we're going to do at the end. So let's go back and let's look at our next space. Let's see where we're going next. Culture. So oftentimes when I'm talking to people who are new in the field of workplace well-being, they say, well, culture's that's not part of my job. That's not anything that I do. And I say, that culture is something that everyone does. Culture is those shared values, beliefs, the attitudes, the set of assumptions that people use in a workplace that they share and that really contribute to that unique social, psychological environment that builds a workplace and builds an organization. And I'm sure you have all had the experience of working in a workplace where there was a very positive culture. And I hope you haven't had, but perhaps you have, like me, had an experience where you worked in a place where the culture wasn't so positive. And culture does have a direct influence on employee well-being. So we need to be really keeping this in mind, that employee well-being and employee experience is a direct result of the culture of the organization and a direct impact on employee well-being. So you know what it's like when you're working in a positive, upbeat place where people feel respect for each other, where there's mutual trust, and you feel like you really are part of something that's bigger than yourself. So when we think about the elements that go into creating culture, these are some of the things that I think are really most important elements. One is values. Values are those underlying elements that drive the behavior, that often drive the purpose of an organization, and they often drive how we communicate. So in an organization where its focus is all on profit, then we always communicate about what the numbers are. Did we make the numbers? Where do we stand relative to the numbers? If it's all about the numbers, then that tells us that that's the only thing that matters. But when we see true values in an organization that are caring and care for people, there's a very different type of culture. When we think about leaders in our organization, to what extent do they serve as role models? Role models not only for the values of the organization, of how people are cared for, how we communicate, but how we live our lives. Do we live our lives with a life of meaning? Are they role models for your well-being programs? Do you have them on board? Or are they never seen or heard from in the elements of the workplace and in your programs in particular? So how do they fit in from a role model perspective? One of the things I always love about, when I'm working with a client, I always ask about, tell me the kinds of things that are done from a social perspective in your organization. When do people come together just to have fun, just to be together for the sake of being together? And often I hear that there's all kinds of different things that they do. And some of them can be tied to well-being, like a softball league or, a golf league or some of those kinds of fun things. Or one organization that and when I was writing my book, I was interviewing CEOs, and a particular CEO told me about a ritual that they have in their organization where every Friday that they take a group of people from their company and they go bowling. But they just go bowling for an hour and a half. And it's a way to bring people together in a fun environment and be able to really have people bond and just get to know each other in completely different ways. So we really want to be able to think about, how does that play into the culture of our workplace? And then think about the other element of celebration. How do you celebrate in your workplace? And this obviously could be tied to the social piece, but do you celebrate? Are there ways in which you celebrate in the workplace? How are people honored and recognized for the things that they're doing? So let's now take this concept and go back to Menti. So grab your browser or your phone and let's go look again at the next question. And let's, from this perspective, how can culture, what are the elements you think need to be in the workplace of the future to be able to support employee well-being from a culture perspective? So what are the elements you would like to see? I know the ones that I really like. So you can just choose next question. Oh, fun's getting up there. I like that one. That's a great one. All right, social connection, really important now. And as I think for mental well-being perspectives, that's going to be certainly going to need to be another element of it. So values-based, so we see values-based, that's another element. Celebration, so important. Fun is taking it so far. We've got to have some fun here. Values, there we go. We're seeing more about the need for values, how those values are articulated and communicated, really important as well. All right. Looks like we might have a tie here. I don't know, it's getting close. All right, so we've got, go ahead and finish up your entries there so we can see what we've got as our top 3 from culture. All right, looks like values won out here. Fun and transparency. I like the transparency piece. Important, so important with regard to how we communicate in the workplace. Fabulous. All right. Well, okay, let's go on to the next topic. So we've got another one here. So let's talk about employee experience. Now, when you think about employee experience, certainly the 2 things we've talked about already, technology and the built environment and culture certainly come into play here. But employee experience, I'm seeing many of my clients really focusing on employee experience, literally hiring people whose job title includes employee experience, because this is all of the aspects of what it is when you are in a workplace. Everything touches employee experience. So we're devoting many more resources to these efforts, including things like mapping the employee journey, understanding what motivates people, having regular opportunities to get feedback from employees. So there's many elements that go into employee experience. So we've talked a little bit about the place. What does the place, what does the physical element of the workplace mean? Well, we're rethinking that certainly this year, aren't we? Place is completely different. The workplace is not necessarily where we think it was anymore. It's not the place you commute to. It's not the place you show up. Well, actually, it is the place you show up, but it's wherever you may be. So I often ask the question of colleagues and friends. I say, so if you could work from anywhere, where would it be? Because for many people today, you can work from anywhere. When we think about the employee experience from a connection perspective, this is a big part of what role we can play with our well-being programs, is how do we create connection and community for the individuals who are in your workplace? How do we bring them together through the programs we create? One of my clients has a habit of doing programs where employees post pictures. So when they're doing the activity, or that right now they're doing a planking challenge, they call it Planksgiving, and everybody does planks, and every day you increase the number of planks, the amount of time you spend doing your plank. So how do you bring that together in a community perspective? It's pictures. It's how you have pictures of people doing the activity. So what can you be doing to help create connection with your programs? Where does flexibility come into play? Now, some of you put flexibility as one of the topics earlier, and I'm curious what you think about the need for flexibility as we think about the workplace of the future. We are definitely going to be living in a hybrid workplace. So hybrid being, we're going to have some people remote, some people in the office or in the workplace, the physical workplace, whether that's a hospital or a factory or, retail store, wherever it may be. Where is flexibility going to come into play? And then finally, recognition. What are the ways in which you, in both through your programs of well-being programs and through the way you interact with the other recognition programs in the organization, how are people recognized? How are they rewarded? How are they honored for the commitment and work that they're doing? So let's take the last couple of minutes here. Let's go back to our mentee, and let's try the next question. From the employee experience perspective, what is the key elements that you think are really going to be important for your workplace of the future? All right, we've got, okay, there we go. There's a great one, trust. Trust is so important and the foundation of so much. Yes, I have a blog and a video coming out on trust next week. It's an important topic, one that we really do need to focus on. So we're seeing flexibility, trust, connection, transparency. Again, going back to transparency, we heard that once before. That was already something that we had as a key element of the workplace of the future. Technology certainly is. This was very interesting this year in watching organizations that weren't prepared. They didn't have enough laptops. They didn't have any laptops. An entire workforce that I was interacting with earlier this year, where everybody came to work just like they did before the pandemic, because the technology would not support a remote workforce. So yes, ergonomics is definitely something, especially for people working at home. Just think about all that movement we did just a few minutes ago and how that energized us. Does the desk chair you sit at energize you every day? All right, so let's go ahead and pick 3 here. All right, so what are our last 3 that we're going to have here? Make your final votes. Last call. It's looking like we've got trust is certainly at the top of this. Flexibility. And accessibility. Okay, so accessibility is an important element as well. So let's use those top 3, flexibility, trust, and accessibility, as our workplace of the future concepts. All right, so while we're finishing up here, Amina, if you can type all of those last ones into the poll, and then in a moment we can launch the poll, then we'll be able to recap all of this because we've only got a couple of minutes left. So we've looked at these 4 thinking spaces, 4 areas of those elements that impact well-being in the workplace. And you can see that there are many dimensions. You've come up with 12 dimensions from these workspaces that give us the opportunity to understand what's important to you. Now, this element is, we're going to now pick one. You're going to have the opportunity in the poll that Amina is going to launch to be able to pick one of these 12 concepts that is really what you think is the most important element of the workplace of the future. So if you look at what's, we'll bring these up in a moment. And Amina, if you can just give me a thumbs up there so I know that the poll is going to be ready to launch. So in the technology, we had connection, education, and access. In the built environment, we had natural light, creativity, and quiet spaces. We have in the culture, we had fun, values, and transparency, and an employee experience where you have trust, flexibility, and accessibility. So let me just do a quick recap as we're waiting for the poll to be ready to launch. What I have just done with you is a qualitative data gathering activity. This is something you can do with your workplace in your employees to be able to gather information. What this helps you do is be able to understand what their interests and their needs are. And I particularly want you to see that you can do this in a virtual environment. We can do this online using easy online tools. It's important for us as well-being professionals to recognize the trends in areas outside of our area of expertise. Technology is an important area for us to be monitoring, but everything, there's many, many different things we need to be thinking about. We need to read widely, not just within our own domain. We need to read many different things. Culture, we need, culture in the workplace. We need to read about different things that potentially are impacting the way that individuals are interacting. We need to be starting these conversations in the workplace so that we can know what these trends are and we can be ready for them when they come. and look for ways to create these idea sharing opportunities. So are we just about ready with the poll? The poll is not working this morning. Okay,
We're
so
having a technology issue.
okay, well then in that case, I'd like you to look at the chat, and from the 12 topics that are listed there, I'd like you to pick one. So just pick one that you think is going to be the most important element of the workplace of the future. And then we'll just capture that. I'll collect this from the chat and I will capture this. And I'll have a recap document that has the word clouds in it. So if you would want to get a copy of that word cloud summary, you can text well-being to 66866 and I'll get that out to you. So we're seeing connection, flexibility, values, trust, creativity. All of these elements are important. And it looks like connection's one that people are feeling is, I'm seeing, votes for connection. I'm seeing votes for trust. What do you think would be the number one thing? I see trust coming up. And again, I see this as an important topic. I have a blog coming and a video coming out on this next week. Connection, trust, flexibility. We're about out of time for today. So I want to thank you for being here for this fun interactive session. I hope this was helpful. If you want to get the recap on this, go ahead and text text the word well-being to 66866. Thank you. Back to you, Joyce.
Marie, what is one question that you commonly get asked by your audience after this presentation?
I often get asked about the idea of how do I utilize this technique with my own people.
Okay.
I'm a very big advocate for measuring well-being, and this is a big part of the work that I do with my clients is helping them measure well-being. And if we don't know what people want, we know what they need. You've got lots of different tools to be able to understand what they need. You've got health risk assessments, you've got claims data, you've got biometrics, you've got all kinds of things that you use. But when you want to really understand what people want, I'm a firm believer in using these qualitative techniques to be able to gather information. And this is a great way to be able to do it interactively and to make a little bit of fun out of it too.
I really like that approach because what employees often say to me is, I'm tired of all the surveys. And so we
Yes.
barely get 10% back from the surveys now. And this is a great way for us to actually get them to participate and they feel, because this way, when you go back to them, you can say, as per our exercise, here's what you shared. And they have buy-in when you talk about engagement and buy-in. I love those exercises. They're so, those qualitative exercises, they're very fun and inclusive.
Yes, exactly. Well, everybody feels like they have a voice.
Exactly.
Each of you had a voice in this morning.
Mm-hmm.
It is so important for people to feel like their voice is being heard.
Yeah.
I see Judith shaking her head. Yes. Yeah. No, it's so true, right? People want to feel like they're being heard.
It is.
And the nice part about this is you can then share this information and you can show what people said was most important. Here's all our ideas and here's the ones we think are most important. And that's a great way to have some transparency. So transparency was one of the things that was on our list.
Mm-hmm. I love that you say the word, the ideas that you had, because I think a lot of times employees feel the biometrics and all of those assessments are really more for the employer and not for them. And this really get their hands into it. It gets them thinking, it gets them making choices, it gets them feeling, yeah, this is important to me. So at the end, when you create, as you expand your wellness culture in the workplace, it is very inclusive. Everyone has had a voice, everyone feels part of creating it. And that's where you get more participation. So I want to ask you if you would talk about participation in the well-being processes at work, because that has been a challenge for many organizations. They go ahead and spend millions, thousands of dollars. They put together these elaborate programs, and then Nobody shows up, nobody participates in the programs and activities. So can you share a little bit about that with us? Your thought on that?
Sure. This goes to exactly what we were just talking about, which is, do you understand what your employees want? We fully understand and can document what they need. But we all know that in order for people to engage, to participate, they have to be intrinsically motivated. They have to want to. They have to have their own why they want to do this. And it's their why is not because they didn't get as high a score on a health risk assessment. That doesn't motivate a lot of people. So when we understand what employees want to do, and we design our programs and initiatives and interventions to what people want to do, that's when you will get engagement. And make it fun, right? Fun was on our list of things, right? Make it fun. Create a culture where having fun is okay, that it's part of what we do. But when you do that, that's when you're going to be able to engage more people and have them participate. If we can create ways for them to be connecting so that they feel part of something, that's when you will see participation climb.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I love that. Great presentation. So we have some feedback here from Judith. It's very fine line for staff between feeling the employer cares about productivity and the bottom line versus truly caring about their wellness as people. And Andrea, it's important to find a way to merge the goals of leadership and the desires of the workforce. Yes, and those quantitative processes are a great way to do that. Exactly. I love them. We do them a lot. Mari, we are learned so much with your presentation this morning. It's really a great way to emphasize some of what we've been talking about. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks everybody for being here. It's just a delight to be able to spend time with you. And thanks for all your interaction and your suggestions on what we should see in the workplace of the future.
Absolutely. And the poll said it's too much. I think we've overloaded them today. I'm so sorry about that. Yesterday when we tried it, it worked, but I guess today it's just not enough. Technology doesn't always work. So we do have to ensure that people are there. At this time, we are going to take our morning break, and then we'll come back to, I'm presenting next. So let's take our morning break. We're going to go for about, we're back at 1:45. Sorry, at 10:45, I think, right? Let me double check. Oh, I don't even know when. Yeah, so we are back at 10:45. So bathroom break, coffee, all the things we need to do, and we'll be back then. See you guys.
Thanks.
Hi there, can I get a large coffee, single cream?
Sure, large coffee.
Yeah, a small strawberry banana smoothie.
Large one, please. Strawberry banana smoothie, small, right?
Small, yeah, and a small package of 10.
Welcome back, everybody, and good morning. We've had a really good session this morning and learned a lot of really great things. I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed Mari's session and doing that ideation and getting everybody involved. So now it's time to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to start talking more about developing wellness competencies to foster positive energy at work. And so we have the only one and only Joyce speaking up next and sharing some information on how to develop a wellness competency to foster positive energy at work. So as you all know and have met with her, she's and seen her throughout the last couple of days so far, Joyce is a thought leader really on workplace interpersonal dynamics and wellness competency mindset teaching. She's also a conflict analyst, a coach, a corporate speaker, and been a trainer now for 24 years. Joyce helps organizations address interpersonal conflict, something that's pretty difficult to do, stress, diversity, inclusion, and psychological safety at work to promote relational well-being. So she's a frequent TV guest expert, and she's the president and CEO of Interpersonal Wellness Services, Inc., and founder and host of the Global Workplace Wellness Summit and What's Happening at Work podcast. She is a coaching training director with her own ICF approved coach training program as well. So really excited to be hearing and having Joyce share her expertise here with us on developing wellness competencies to foster positive energy at work. So welcome back, Joyce.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for introducing me. Welcome, everyone. It is so great to be here and really have such positive energy here as we talk. But I just want to bring you back to this place. Here we are in my office, and I am here. Across from me sits my client in a mediation session, and he holds his chest and bends over, and I'm saying, no, I cannot believe my client is having a heart attack in my office. I panicked for a few minutes and then got my head together, called 911 to come and help my client, because he was having a heart attack in my office. I was a young mediator. I had such dreams of becoming this amazing conflict analyst and changing the world of work and relationships and helping people to get along so much better. But the reality is, not everybody wants to get along. And sometimes people want to get along, but they don't know how to. And many times in the struggle to get along or fighting against getting along, we damage our health and our well-being and that of the person across the desk, across the room, maybe in the other department, or even in the C-suite. My name is Joyce Edison, and I have been a conflict analyst, coach, and workplace wellness, bullying expert, teacher, trainer. I have done it all. But under that, I was very concerned because you see, early in my career, a client had a heart attack in my office, and that changed me. Underneath it all, there was this question: is there something else? Is there a better way? How can I create more understanding? How can I create more awareness of the damage that we do to ourselves and others when we don't get along? You see, sometimes I call it relational well-being. But the reality is, when we don't get along, we don't just hurt ourselves, we hurt others too. And sometimes we don't get along because we don't know how to get along with others. We don't know what to do and how to do it. See, I work with organizations, with teams, with leaders, the C-suite. I do conflict intervention, bullying, anti-bullying, anti-harassment, interpersonal training, coaching, intervention, you name it, I see it. But what my clients all have in common over the last 23 years is a deep ache, a hurt, a pain, an anguish. Sometimes it's demonstrated at the other person. Sometimes it manifests as the desire to get back at the other, to sabotage, to make their lives hell at work. These are some of the words they tell me they want to do. And sometimes it's the fear, the pain, the anguish, sitting in the parking lot, crying in their car, throwing up before they go into the office, the anxiety, the uncertainty, the fear and the stress of having to work with that person. One client said to me, Joyce, when I make the shift, if certain people are on work, are on the shift, I expect a high percentage of sick call. That means other employees don't want to work with them. That is the reality. The reality of what I see and what I do on a daily basis. And you know what? I've had many opportunities to do other things, but I keep coming back to this. I love helping people get beyond not getting along. I love helping them to extrapolate the anger and the resentment and the hurt and the fury and all the rage and frustration. I love when they put it on the table like a big, old, ugly puzzle, and we get to dissect it and cut it apart and discuss it and identify who they are in this process. Who are you in this process? What are you giving up in this process? Who do you become as a result of this conflict? What do you want to leave behind? So I get asked these questions. What makes conflict grow, Joyce? Why is this conflict escalating? How is it impacting those involved? That is my question. And you see, over the years, as I go into organization, I see certain symptoms. I see policy violations. I see unaddressed conflict. I see low trust. I see high suspicion. Ad hoc responses to harassment and bullying. We see many of those over the years. But overall, my goal is always to help them to increase their success level. Sometimes we see increased burnout, stress leave. People are ready to pull their hair out. But my job, I always try to remember, my job is there to help them to implement a system that will allow them to increase resilience, engagement, so that people can go to work and leave work happy. Wouldn't that be something? You see, I work with my clients to create steps to formulate wellness conversations, to create that improvement, that wellness improvement plan, and to develop what I've called wellness competency and mindset shift, creating a clear path so that employees are well, engaged, hopeful, understand wellness and engage in it. And after many years of wondering, what would that look like? I would not rest until I was able to develop a process that allowed my clients to understand the logic and mindset does relate to intuition, relationship, and interpersonal wellness. And so I got even bolder. I changed my company's name to Interpersonal Wellness Services more than a decade ago. That's how determined I was to make a difference. And here is what I was able to create. So what you see here is the wellness improvement system. This is the framework I use for all the work I do with individuals and organizations. I work with some of the most hard to reach, difficult to understand employees, leaders, board members, you name it. If they have a belly button, I work with them. Everything interpersonal. And so I wanted to give my clients an opportunity to go deep and actually get a visual of how their interpersonal aligns with who they are and the energy they bring to the workplace. And this model helps me to provide them with that visual. You see, when my client had the heart attack in my office, it wasn't because he was a healthy, happy person. It's because he had spent so much time in rage, in anguish, and wanting to get back at the person and not wanting to meet halfway, not wanting to negotiate with the other person. Thankfully, the paramedics showed up on time. They whisked him away to the hospital. But I never forget, a few days later, my son was quite young. He's 26 and taller than me now, but he was about 3.5, 4. And I was looking at the bloodstained carpet where the paramedics had punctured the client to start putting through some medicine before they take him into the ambulance. And my son looked at the bloodstain as I was there, and he looked up at me and said, "Mommy, are we ever going to get rid of that bloodstain?" And I remember at that time, something shifted in me. And I just knew that that experience was going to change the trajectory of my career. And I truly believe it was foundational in my ability to create this process and the system that we're going to be checking in on today. You see, when we look at the interpersonal wellness system, we are going to look at some key elements in here. You see, in the whole concept behind this framework is to show how interconnected we are. Every part of us is interconnected, intertwined, and relatable to the other person. Now, you probably haven't seen this version of the model yet, but this is where we started. When I first started putting it together, I was like, spiritual wellness? Why would I add spiritual wellness as a dimension? But today I want to talk to you about the wellness competencies. And if you will notice this model, it's actually designed when I start. I wanted you to see some of my initial thinking and where we've come now. I started off identifying these 9 dimensions. And inside these dimensions, I wanted to provide key life words that would help my clients, like the angry one who had the heart attack, that when you're upset at someone at work, or in your life, or in your relationship, or even your ex-wife or ex-spouse, rather, when you are angry at that person and you have negative interpersonal exchange with them, it impacts the whole you and the whole them. You see, we don't get to go and be mad with someone and say, well, I'm going to be mad at you today, but I'm not going to let my hand be part of it. I'm gonna take my heart out of this and just be mad at you. Or I'm gonna take my nervous system out of the process and just be mad at you and be angry and tense and frustrated and not breathe properly because I'm taking my lungs out of this. We don't get to do that. You see, humans are an intricate system, and we have what we call a life system. And in this system, we have our spiritual wellness, our social wellness, we have our emotional wellness, our occupational wellness, intellectual wellness, environmental wellness, financial wellness, physical wellness, and interpersonal wellness. You see, when we learn about wellness, we sometimes just think we have emotional, spiritual, and maybe physical wellness, and we stop there. But there is so much more. Wellness is such a complex, interwoven, and intertwined process. You see, when we look at wellness, we have to ask ourselves, how do we get well? How do we stay well is the most important question. And so over the past decade, I have done a lot of research on the interpersonal wellness system that I was favored to give birth to. And I have come to learn that we actually are, all of us have these systems. There isn't one of us that's alive who doesn't have these systems in our life, or these elements or dimensions in our life. And so when we are unwell in one area of our life, for instance, if I am unwell spiritually, it's going to impact me in all areas, because the spiritual, as you will notice here, is closely aligned, if you notice, in color and in position to the physical wellness. So is intellectual wellness aligned to occupational wellness. And so is social wellness aligned to financial wellness. And interdependence aligned to emotional wellness. But if you've encountered this model before, you're like, Joyce, you have it upside down. No, I don't, because today I want to speak about the wellness competencies we need to develop personally and corporately in order for us to have well people and well organizations. If you take a look at the system, you will understand that spiritual wellness, in order for you to be spiritually well, we need to develop what I call wellness competencies. And we're going to go through the competencies and understand what these words are. So when you see integrity up here, it is the wellness competency for the spiritual wellness dimension. And you're like, Joyce, well, that's a stretch. How did you get to that? Well, we have actually been watching our clients. In the spiritual wellness realm, we believe lays things such as self-esteem, personal style, vision, purpose, core values, beliefs, balance, culture, religion, faith, value alignment, hope, trust, and many, many more. We could go on. But this gives you a picture. So what we've done essentially is start asking the question, Well, how would I know how well am I doing? Don't you want to know how well you're doing in these areas? That's what we get to do today. We're going to see how well we're doing in a couple of these areas and assess how well we are. Then we're going to look at the wellness competencies and how they relate. So I have a question for you, and you can go ahead and answer in the chat. What do you think the relationship is between integrity and self-esteem? Integrity and self-esteem. Do you think there's a relationship? Just a yes or no. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. For sure. There is also a relationship between integrity and purpose, right? Values, core values, beliefs. So what we've come to learn is that when people are not doing well in these dimensions of their life, they tend to be onerous and tend to be more likely to have interpersonal conflict with others. Would you believe? And we have proven that over and over again, that those who tend to be, when we see clients showing up every time we move, they're being moved from one department to the next, and they have the same conflict. They're not now fighting with their supervisor, now they're fighting with management. Or over there, they were fighting with their coworkers. And so what we found is that when people are not doing well in these areas of their lives, when someone is not doing well socially, they are going to have more interpersonal conflicts and challenges in the social dimension, in the spiritual dimension, in the emotional dimension. When they're not doing well in those dimensions, they have more interpersonal challenges. And what we've come to do is we started helping our clients to assess how well they're doing. So here I was, and I've been blessed to bring this model forth, and I shared it with my clients, and I started what I call the assessments, the Wellness Improvement Assessment, the WIS assessment. And the clients would show up and they're like, Joyce, does my organization know that you're going to have me look at my whole life? Are you sure? Are they going to pay you to do that? Like, am I going to get in trouble because I'm using the time here to? You see, we move away from punitive actions. I was able to convince my clients that let those onerous and hard to reach and difficult high conflict employees work with us in the wellness improvement system. And we put them through the assessment. And I started getting calls. Joyce, what are you doing over there? These people are coming back very happy. I'm like, why? Don't you want them to be happy? Don't you want a happy work? Well, yeah, we like them. We like them now, better than before they came to see you. But is it going to last? When can we expect the change? Oh, I would get calls. Joyce, we can't afford to send everybody to see you. Our organization have thousands of employees. We can't afford. I'm like, why? Who asked? Well, the employees are coming back and saying that we should send their coworkers, and Jack over here needs to go, and Jill over there needs to go. And because we were giving them an opportunity to self-reflect. And for the first time, they get to step out of themselves and not feel blamed and punitive actions are being told or denigrated because of their poor behavior or their lack of good interpersonal skills. Instead, we actually started to engage them in conversation as to how well they were doing in these key life areas in each of the dimensions. We were asking them questions. What's your community like? What's your, how do you listen? How do you share? What's your network? How do you consider others' feelings? And we actually we put them in the driver's seat and we say, why don't you tell us on a scale of 1 to 10 how well you're doing in those areas? And they're like, what? I thought you get to tell us how bad we were. I'm like, no, you get to tell us. And interestingly, as we went through this process, we were seeing more and more awareness and understanding from the employees and more desire to do better. And they were showing up at work doing better and executing at a higher level. So then we start asking, what's common? What are they doing that consistently, how do we measure it? And that's where the whole concept of wellness competencies came up. Because we wanted to start measuring how well they were doing, but we also wanted to start measuring how well they were improving. And that's what the competencies allow us to do. Because competencies allow us to measure what we do, whereas skills are what we do. Interesting. So as we went through the process, we started pulling out, and then things started changing. We started realizing that instead of just collaboration here, our clients were actually becoming more resilient. And so we started helping the organization to see that actually resilience is the competency here, right? And with spiritual wellness, it was integrity. With social wellness, it's responsible communication. With emotional wellness, it is emotional intelligence, or what we call here self-mastery. With occupational wellness, it's engagement. And with intellectual wellness, it's building capacity building. Environmental wellness is interdependence. With financial wellness, it's innovation. And with physical wellness, it's vibrancy. So let's go through these and get a little bit of an understanding of what they are and how they work. So if we go through, you will notice that in the spiritual wellness dimension, we have some key life areas: self-esteem, personal style, vision. And so I'm going to get you to see how we actually apply those to the workplace. And then we're going to actually do some assessments. Not all, we're just going to assess a couple of those because of time. Let's take a look. We're going to look at how the organization can actually implement these competencies at work. And here's what we come up with. After years of working with employees to develop their wellness capacity by building these competencies into their life and now making them, yesterday we talked about the brain and neural pathway, and neuroscience, and it teaches us when we do something, we create neural pathways and they become part of our repertoire, because at work, we learn new competencies. So it was a very easy switch to bring the concept of competencies here into the workplace. And so we started mapping for the workplace how they too, the system, the actual organizational system, could map and develop wellness competencies, but actually display the wellness competencies so employees can connect back to the organization. Well, why should I develop integrity as a competency and my organization doesn't do it? You see, when we talk about integrity and why it lies at the bedrock of the spiritual wellness assessment dimension, rather, is that to be integral, one needs to be clear on who they are. That sense of integrity, that oneness with your values, oneness with your purpose, oneness with your vision is very important. And when we ask employees to do something, it's very important for the organization to model it as well. And so we said to the organizations, why don't you add integrity as a competency that employees and managers can talk about integrity as a competency that they're developing? So part of their personal development plan is on integrity and why it's vital to our organization, why it's important for us to develop integrity as an individual so that our work and ourselves, so me as an individual aligns with my workplace. And many organizations have these terms. They call them values. So you've seen these as many of these words as values, but there's a difference between values and competencies. While values are things that we should show or demonstrate, competencies are things we develop and excel at. So I didn't want to just say, oh yeah, these are the organizational values, because there is no connection and there is no interrelation between. Most of the times when we train, I ask employees, what are your organizational, what's your corporate values? And they look at me blank. I don't know. Let me look on the website. And so that became, over the past 23 years, it becomes a running joke, right? And so the employees who've worked with me over years, they know that I'm going to ask for the values. So they actually do look before they come to class with me. But it's important to recognize the difference between the two, because sometimes it's subtle and we miss it. You see, the values are the things that the organization should reflect. It's not the things that I should reflect, Joyce. That's just, the organization just put that there so that people on the outside will see us and think we're, to make us look good. It has nothing to do with me. This is a common thing that I hear, common theme. It has nothing to do with me. But when we say competencies, it has a different meaning and connotation. It's how we're going to be evaluated. It's where we need to develop. It's where we might not be exemplifying or performing at the certain level. And so we use those play on words to create a shift in mindset for well-being at work. So take a look at an organization that has integrity as a competency that the executive C-suite, the leaders, are striving for, but also the employees and the managers and the supervisors and the team leads are now working towards integrity. And the organization does simple things as highlighting their corporate employees' reputation, their purpose, and their vision and their values. And one competency they're all going to work at is to build integrity. And all of a sudden, we have people doing things like, but what is my purpose? Because one of the exercises we do to build wellness competencies at work is that we go back and look at all of the key life areas in the wellness improvement system. And we use that as a roadmap to help us to identify the competencies and to develop the competencies. So we go back and look at self-esteem. When you talk as a leader, when you engage with your employees, do you consider the impact of your words and how it might impact their self-esteem? Do you consider the values that the employees may be bringing? And on Tuesday, when our group was talking about diversity and integration and inclusion, one of the things that come up is the values of diverse people in the workplace and how they may align or not align with that of the corporation. So understanding the integrity of that organization and that of the employees. So looking at things like personal style, we spend billions of dollars a year on personal style, doing Myers-Briggs assessment, doing friendly style, doing Drew Collins, all these strength finders, all of these assessments. What we're really looking at is people's personal style, because the personal style actually means we want to understand if you're fit in. We want to know, we want to get a sense as to how you play how you get along, your energy, how you might respond to situations. And I always challenge my organization. So why don't we invest in some spiritual wellness for your employees? Help them to build up their self-esteem. One of the workshops I teach is on professional self-esteem. Many employees are bruised and battered in the workplace because they've been told that they're not good at something, or they've done one thing and it's brought back up over and over again, and they're battered emotionally and spiritually because of that. And then we look at things like culture, the culture of the organization. Do we have the culture on paper? Is it the same as the culture, the interactions, the exchanges, the interpersonal energy? And we talk about social vibrations that tell us that we are aligning our values to the words that we have on paper, that the competencies are being developed so that there is that energy when you go in. I think Marie talks about how she goes into an organization when she doesn't work with them to see how they laid out and how the energy, the vibes is. We call it social vibration in our work. And that's really important because there are some organizations you go into and it's very cold and sterile. And that needs to be, if it's a lab, and if it's I do work with some of the big labs here, and it has to be sterile and cold because that is the energy. But I'm talking about interpersonally. Is it interpersonally cold and sterile? Are people treating each other like part of the subject that they're experimenting and researching on? Or do they have relationships? Very, very important. And then we go over here, we talk about responsible communication in the organization. And we talk about collaborative management and cultural competencies, how important that is for organizations to have managers who can collaborate, because what often happens is that the employees' experience of the organization is directly related to their experience with their managers. They will tell you who their organization and what the organization is based on the treatment they've received from their managers and supervisors. Then we look at self-mastery, right? And self-mastery is a key element. And that's where we talk about things like psychological well-being, looking at the interpersonal dynamics, the way people treat each other, what we call relational well-being. All those pieces are very important. Fostering mental wellness, ensuring that the stresses, people take time to break, people take time when there's a stressful time, when that it's acknowledged. Employees are told, thank you for staying late or working. And it's okay to stay late once, but not every day of the week. Maybe one day this week. Very, very important. Then we look at engagement. Often we get called, we have low employee engagement. Employees are not engaging, and there's conflict, and people are not getting along, and there is backstabbing, and there is gossiping, and there is infighting. Well, that's often happens because we lack the relational leadership. The leaders don't have the skills to relate with their employees. They're not asking how well are you doing and actually listening. And so employees are not feeling that the employees care about their well-being. And so one of the things we teach is our relational leadership training, where we put leaders through a process of relational leadership conversation, so they know how to have relational conversations with their peers, but also more importantly, how to foster that with the employees. Because there's nothing more disturbing than to go into an organization and hear leaders talking negatively about each other in front of the subordinates of the other person. I don't even have a language for what I call it. It's just so disheartening, because what message are you sending? And that's why we talk about engagement as a key competencies, because part of that is learning how we relate in our actions, in our words. First of all, when we think of engagement, nobody engages another person the first time. If we put it in a matrimonial perspective, just for a different lens on this, if you meet someone for the first time at Starbucks, are you going to offer to engage them, get engaged, and start marrying that person? No. You want to you may like that person, but you want to get to know them. You want to know who they are. And then you're going to say, okay, I think I'm committed to that person. I'm going to only spend time with that person. Then you go to the next stage. That's a commitment. And then from the commitment, you will go to engagement, right? And so that's what leaders need to be able to do in the organization. By learning how to engage with the employees, with their peers, and fostering that among each other. It's very, very important. Interdependence is a key competency that we focus on because it's so important. And interdependence lies within the environmental wellness competency. And in environmental wellness, we talk about things like healthy living environments. We talk about caring, social responsibility, dignity, diversity, acceptance. Those are the elements that we work to develop. So we look at corporate and employee respectful workplace, diversity, social responsibility. Are those exemplified, and are those competencies that the organization can work at? And not just call them latent values that we put on the shelf or we put on our annual report, but actually have key action steps and key drivers and goals every year, and how we as an organization are going to strive for those, but how you personally as an employee are going to drive these competencies in your lives so that when you come to work on a daily basis, you are in a healthier place to work with others, to engage with your peers, to have good relationships with your bosses, with your supervisors. And we go down to resilience. We look at resilience. It's what we call interpersonal and relational well-being. It's positive vibrations, belonging, empowering, employee assistance programs, and all the other programs that you have that help employees to feel like they are part of the organization, that you care about their well-being and that of their families, that they're not just there for the paycheck, but they're part of the culture. And so you're going to ensure that you're maintaining the policies, you're looking at those government policies and you're enacting them. It was surprising when I go into some very large organization that they hadn't updated their respectful workplace policies for years and years, and employees didn't even know they had a policy to show that they care and that respect and anti-harassment and anti-bullying are things that they care about, and they were striving to. There were no markers to show that these things are. When these things are not available and relevant in your organization, it is an unwell organization. And your employees, therefore, are responding to the environment because it's a system. And systems are as good as the parts. You have to develop the parts in order for the system to be well. We go over here and we talk about vibrancy. Vibrancy talks about physical activity. Many organizations, when we ask them about wellness in the workplace, they say, oh yeah, we give everybody a gym membership, and we have everybody gets a pass for yoga. We have a yoga instructor comes in, and oh yeah, we have aerobics, so we have a walking program, and oh yeah, we have a nutritionist coming in, and well, it's much more than that. Because as I've identified, there are 9 dimensions of wellness, and the organization need to institute key competencies that align with their employees growing and developing in those areas to make it well. You look at things like physical activity, nutrition, labor legislation, compliance, physical safety, all of those things are important. It is not a well environment if you're not following the health and safety regulations, especially in a COVID environment. That's even more critical now. If employees are getting hurt, getting into accident, falling, it's not a well organization, it's not a safe organization. People stay up at night worried that they will get hurt at work. Then we go into the financial wellness, and that's where we find innovation. And innovation is placed into corporate financial strength, transformation, and change management. Organizations make changes when it affects the bottom line, but enough thought isn't placed on the transitions. Transition is the emotional and psychological aspect that your employees are going to have to endure as a result of the change. Sometimes the changes are so stupid. They change one year, they're over there, they're working out of this building, and the next 2 years later they move back, and you're like, how much money does it cost? And that's what your employees are thinking. They don't care about me. They only care about their bottom line. Put some thought in your innovation and your creativity in your organization to the transition. How might this affect employees? And it's not that we want things to stay the same. We are all about innovation. But if you start to look at innovation from the wellness lenses of your organization, then you, as a competency versus a value, you're going to think differently about the innovation you bring in. We are headed into the world of artificial intelligence. What intelligences can you bring in? How can you phase them in? How do you word that and message that to your employees? How do you deal with the fear and anxiety that employees have towards artificial intelligence? AI is here. It has been coming for a long time. I think the velocity of the integration of AI into our society and into our world, especially since this pandemic, we're going to see it more rapidly. And it's important. I had an organization call me because they were going to the open workspace and their employees were traumatized because they were used to coming in and having their offices, having their desks, having their family photos on the desk, having their space. They have their mug, their favorite mugs, and the organization said it was more environmentally friendly and it's the way to go. And somebody championed it into the workplace and brought it in, and they were spending the millions of dollars to transition to an open workplace. And they called me, Joyce, our employees are going through a hard time and having difficulty with this. Can you help them? And the challenge, of course, I love you employees. I want to help them. But what's going on with you? Did you recognize the culture of your organization? And don't you realize that you're not there yet for them? And this just happened, I don't even think it's 2 years ago. Now with COVID-19, that so many people have transitioned to work from home, that place is not ideal. And the resistance and the processes we have to put in place to help employees to mentally and emotionally transition to that, they're not going to want to go there now that COVID has started. And reality is that most of them have actually moved home to work from home. And so sometimes the changes that look good one time may not be the change that is appropriate at another time. And your employees are looking at that and they're like, they don't care about us, they only care about the bottom line. And it's important to think about that. Then we think about capacity building, and that is lived in our intellectual wellness. In intellectual wellness, we think about things like accountability, reliability, knowledge, time management, reflection, education, experience, personal care, growth. This is on the personal level. But when we look at it from a corporate lens, It says continuous learning, culture of accountability. If we, and I all hail to the organizations out there that are fostering a culture of accountability and continuous learning, because that's critical and that's important. Because when we don't learn, we die, we become stagnant, we don't grow. And learning is essential and important for you in your organization and for your employees. This is how I work with organizations to develop and to actually look at the values in their organization and do a bit of tweak to start thinking wellness competencies so that they can actually have goalposts and they can have specific plans and they can measure how well they're doing. You know, people don't measure the values in their organization, but when we talk about wellness competencies, now it's actionized and they can measure how well they're doing. And it's a lot easier to have those conversations with your employees. But it didn't start with the employees. It didn't start with the organization. It started with the employees. And the key benefits to those wellness competencies is that it streamlines your existing programs into a wellness system. Just imagine your organization, you have a gym at work, and less than 20% of your employees actually use the gym. And the gym costs $1 million. And this is a case study. And here you are thinking, wow, we put all that money into the gym and Harry and Sally and Jane and that group, they're in there. And what the employees are saying, oh Joyce, yeah, that's for the fit people. Those are the people who love working out. It's not for all of us. And they don't see it as is for them. They don't claim ownership to it. And so they don't participate in it. And yes, there are incentives and there are other programs. But the thing about having programs is that people think in terms of categories. So they're going to look when you bring a new program and say, who goes, oh, it's for those people. But when we have a system of wellness, everybody is included because they're part of the system. So when you set a competency for capacity building in your organization, and you say we have a culture of continuous learning, and that aligns with our well-being, because when we learn, we grow and we develop. You see the simple messaging, the subtle messaging, that is what we talk about, changing mindsets and creating a wellness mindset at work. With the wellness competencies, you can transform all the elements of your organizations, all your programs and your training programs and your fitness programs can all be systemized with wellness competencies. It becomes inclusive. It doesn't no longer, that's for those people over there. Oh, the people who like to work, oh, the healthy people, those people who like to eat, oh, those people who like fresh air and outdoor activities. It's no longer for them, because now it becomes a competency in the organization. And it's not only attained by you doing a physical activity, because now we can measure it in, hey, what are you learning? What courses are you taking? As we sit to look at your employee development plan, what do you want to grow? What do you want to learn? What do you want to do more about? It's interdependence. It's that social responsibility. Where are you volunteering? And we conversation it and make it part of the workplace culture. So when organizations say to me, we have a wellness program, but we have such low turnover, I say, turn it into a wellness system. And they're like, what? You're now able to measure the impact of your wellness initiatives, and the ability to align wellness activity to measure outcome becomes very clear, and it becomes part of the communication of the organization. This is our Wellness at Work roadmap that we use. Obviously, we come in most of the times and people are unwell, high conflict, low resilience, very conflicted. And we start with our wellness conversations. We start by engaging people to talk about wellness from the spiritual dimension. We get them engaged in talking about self-esteem and purpose and vision and culture and core values and trust. And we engage them in the integrity dialogue, the rich dialogue, start to engage their mind and they start asking questions. And then we move them into what we call the wellness assessment. And this is where we're going to actually go in and assess how well we're doing. And I'm going to give you a link so you can do 2 of the wellness assessments and find out how well you're doing in these dimensions, because that's critical. Then we do a wellness audit based on the results, where we can actually tell the organization which of the 9 dimensions the employees are struggling with, where are they at, and when they're investing for training and development, these are the ones they might want to work in. And then we look at the wellness improvement competency plan. How are you going to communicate it? How are you going to align it? How are you going to roadmap your current values and processes to include wellness competencies? And then we look at the wellness competency mindset teaching. This is a conversation model that we use to start getting management and employees comfortable with the use of the wellness competency terminology. And then wellness activity plan. That's consistent to what you already have going on in your organization. It doesn't cost a lot to systemize what your organization for wellness. You see, a system is aligned with a culture or creates a culture. So this is the stability section. This is where you build in your block. And this is where you spend most of your time and energy building these blocks, because after that, it rolls out into what we call a wellness system. It's comprehensive. It's everywhere. So your employees are infused in wellness and wellness conversation and activity. Everything in the organization can be stamped wellness. And then you look at your wellness roadmap. And we usually help the organization to develop a 9-month plan that rolls out with one of the dimension teaching over each month that employees can engage in. And that leads them into evaluation and maintenance plan and how they're going to do it. And sometimes we roadmap a 5-year plan for them. That's easily and quietly becomes part of the process in their organization. So we talk about align, attach, integrate, and anchor. And that's where the comprehensiveness comes in to the wellness competencies. It anchors everything that you're already doing around wellness in your organization and gives it a firm foundation in your organization. So the alignment process is simple. With the competencies, you improve employee engagement, you improve mental wellness, you improve interpersonal skills, you improve respect and integrity at work, adapt a collaborative roadmap, you develop a leadership team, you mandatory professional development for supervisors and organizations, you create an acknowledgement stream. And people start feeling like there is humanity at work, because that's what we say. We come in to create humanity at work. And people no longer feel that they are just part of the furniture. They start to recognize, hey, they care about me in this place. I'm important. They're talking my language. So what I'm going to do is provide you with a link so you can do your own wellness assessment. Amina is going to drop those in the link. And I want you to just take another, I'm going to steal a couple of minutes from our lunch break to get you to actually go and click on this link, and it will take you to the one of the wellness assessment. That's the emotional one, and it's on our website. You just need to log in, and then you will see the questions it asks you. How well are you doing? And it gives you the opportunity to start asking yourself, how well am I doing in these dimensions of wellness? How well am I doing in spiritual wellness? But you don't just ask yourself how well you're doing spiritually. We've broken it down because we want you to be able to see each of the dimensions. And when you go in there, it's going to give you 3 different parts, right? We've broken this down into different areas, right? As we want to help you to build self-mastery. And we've seen immense transformation with the employees who are high conflict when they come in. But the challenge of working with high conflict employees and sending them back to a very unstable, unhealthy workplace is that it perpetuates and they come back again and we're seeing the same clients. But when we work with the organizations to develop wellness competencies and we work with the employees to develop wellness competencies, all of a sudden we now have synergy and people are showing up at work happy. People are showing up at work because they feel valued. People are showing up at work because work is a place where they feel safe and work is a place where they are happy and want to be. My name is Joyce Dillison, and I am founder of Interpersonal Wellness Services, Inc. And for the last 24 years, I have been sharing with organizations how we can help people have better interpersonal dynamics at work. So at this point, I'm going to ask if you have any questions, and then I am going to share with you one of the questions that I get commonly asked. So I'm going to read what you have. Open workplaces are, that was a comment from Judith. I know the open workplaces had got quite a flack, and now with COVID, it was quite a challenge to see what the employees went through to adapt to that. Any questions in the chat? You can actually unmute yourself if you do. We're small enough, hopefully, and you can ask the question if you want to ask a question. Okay, go ahead, Judy. Are you oh, let me ask you to unmute.
Hi, thank you, Joyce. So I guess in this time when there's so much uncertainty and particularly fear in companies around their futures financially, how can you convince their leaders to really make this investment? I mean, how can you sort of present the ROI to them? Because I do think that human resources has been very much an underfunded and undervalued area of corporate operations.
That's a great question, Judith, because this, the answer is simple, because this doesn't cost money. They already have these values in the organization. They already have, they just need to shift and change the word. We're talking about shifting mindsets. We're talking about creating a culture, but culture actually have a language. You cannot have a wellness culture without a language. Go to a culture that doesn't have a language and tell me where it is. Every culture you encounter has a specific language that's unique to that culture. And that is something we don't have in the whole workplace wellness industry. We don't have a language that's common to workplace culture. And we talk about creating a culture of wellness at work, but we're lacking the language, the common language that's going to make it easy to understand. And that's what we're doing with the wellness competencies. Victoria had a really good question. Victoria, you asking about how often do you evaluate the wellness competencies? I actually do mine quarterly, because what happens is that wellness is not, and I mean, I have an entire textbook on this. We teach the wellness competency mindset coach training certification on this. There's a lot of data. So I'm very careful and not let people drink through a fire hose and just give you enough information. Just going through this, there's so much theory and research behind this. And the assessment tool is actually available in the entire little booklet that you can use to assess how well you're doing on all the dimensions. Is available in the marketplace as well as something that you can pick up to go through the assessment. It is very, very affordable as to, coming back to Judith's question. But Victoria, you were asking how often does one measure their wellness? I do my wellness assessment quarterly. Actually, this is on my vision board. So every day I wake up, I see it. And this one is focused on wellness competencies. So you're seeing the competencies above. The other one, we show the systems above, the dimensions of wellness is usually above and the competencies are below. So if you've seen it differently elsewhere, that's what it is. And then I'll change here from collaboration to resiliency. And we did that a number of years ago because we were recognizing actually when you collaborate, it makes you resilient and it makes the relationships in the organization more resilient and people have more energy and are more willing to interact interpersonally in a positive way. So I suggest to individuals when they're doing and this presentation was focused more on the corporate teaching it at work, the wellness competency for the organization. But when I teach this to the employees, we actually, in the wellness conversation, we focus in on identifying how well are they doing in self-esteem and in personal style. And then we start really delving in. We tell them to pick the top 5 they want to focus in. And then we work. And part of that, we say, any area that you're doing less than 5 in when you measure, that means that you need to do some work there. And so part of the work needs to, how well do you want to be in that area? You are the 5 now. Where do you want to get to? Be the 6, be the 8, be the 9. It's okay. You put it there as a goal, and then we're going to work. So when we coach clients, when I don't coach anyone who doesn't use this wellness assessment. That's my first assessment that my clients get to when they come to work with me is to go through this wellness assessment, because I'm looking to see how in tune they are with themselves and what's happening around them. And from there, it actually benchmark and it gives us a lot of information. It's not even us, it gives them a lot of information because they come back with their little booklet and they say to me, I'm blown away. I didn't know I was doing so well in this area. Or, oh, how can I change? How can I change my numbers? I don't like my numbers. And so I have facilitated hundreds of professionals on these tools and they themselves are now facilitators of the Wellness Improvement System framework. And we do that through the Wellness Competency Mindset Program, because what we're doing is shifting people's mindset from seeing wellness as static to wellness as dynamic. I can be well today and unwell tomorrow. I could be well this week and unwell 5 weeks later. So it's important for us to continually do that wellness assessment to see where we are. Not daily, I don't recommend, but necessarily I say at least every 3 months to 6 months, you should be going in and checking to see how well you're doing, what you need to change, what you need to do differently, and then making a plan and setting a goal as to where you want to get to in terms of wellness. Yeah, and really does help them to see that, because the competencies are what we use to measure how well we're doing, right? Once we've measured, then we can say, this is where I want to grow. So if we start having integrity, for instance, in the spiritual wellness, and we say, I want to grow, I want to become more spiritually well, and we're going to say, let's look at your level of integrity in terms of your self-esteem. Do you know who you are? Do you know how do you feel about yourself? Where is it coming from? And the conversations become very rich, and employees are starting to get insight and awareness and to say, well, and I did a presentation on this a couple months ago and at a conference, and someone came up to me and says, you shouldn't be just doing this in workplaces. What about individuals? You should be doing this for individuals. I've had people come up and say, you should be teaching it in the schools. I said, that's okay. You come and become a certified facilitator and you can go do that. This is where I stay. And that's what I believe. Sometimes when we birth a program or a concept, we're not necessarily going to be the disseminator of it. Our job is to then teach it to others who can then disseminate it based on how it resonates with them. I have seen my facilitators and coaches done such amazing things with this model and come and say, oh, we use it and we got this. And I was just like, wow, I'm blown away, always humbled. So thank you all for your attention. If there are no further questions or comments, thank you, Judith. And we will go for our lunch break and we'll be back at 12:30. Thank you so much.